Don't you think it's about time the New York Times paid the piper after years of lies, distortions, political interference? What was once a beacon of journalism is now boiled down to just black ink and a leftist agenda. President Trump decided enough is enough. He made CBS pay for their bias. He made PBS and NPR pay for their bias. And it's high time that the New York Times finds out that putting out a faintly seen microscopic retraction days after selling millions of people around the world lies, they're not really being held to account. For years, they've trashed President Trump. They've trashed Republicans. They've helped the Democrats, and they've supported terrorism. There's an expression for it, and it's the New York Times is the find out portion of it. Well, there have been certain go-tos in the world of news over the past year or couple of years until his last sign-off on March 6, 1981. Walter Cronkite was the face and voice you trusted most for news.
This is my last broadcast as the anchorman of the CBS Evening News. For me, it's a moment for which I long have planned, but which nevertheless comes with some sadness. For almost 2 decades, after all, we've been meeting like this in the evenings, and I'll miss that.
The whole world trusted that man for decades. And what Cronkite was to television news, the New York Times once was for print journalism. But oh, how the times have changed and how the mighty have fallen. President Trump said he would file a $15 billion lawsuit for defamation and libel against the New York Times days after the newspaper released articles on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. In a statement, the president slammed their smear campaign against him, his family, and all MAGA supporters. Us. I already know what those on the left are going to say. President Trump is trying to control the media like a tyrant. But the fact is, the New York Times has been owned by the leftist machine for years now. In the Biden years, the paper was practically state-run. Now look at this headline right here. Quote, abolish the Senate, end the Electoral College, pack the court, why the left can't win without a new constitution. The New York Times wants you to know that they condone ripping up the Constitution just to deal with Donald Trump. All in it, all in for a Democrat insurrection. Really, New York Times? But hey, that's the New York Times. And look at this ridiculousness. They're still pushing the climate emergency. Yep, still doing that and without facts. And by the way, without any science whatsoever, because why not? It's the New York Times. Just this morning, the New York Times engaged in a healthy dose of fear-mongering, saying that, and I'm quoting, severe heat this summer killed 3 times as many people in Europe cities as would have died had humans not warmed the planet by burning fossil fuels, scientists said Wednesday. What the hell does that mean, scientists said Wednesday? You got anything more for us than what scientist? The guy in the mailroom? He's our male scientist, and he said not many people have died if it weren't for fossil fuels. Sounds scary, right? Until you read the sentence right after that one. The new analysis was based on historical mortality trends, not actual death records. Okay, got it. So let me get this straight. So that statement had nothing to do with actual data or statistical evidence because their orders are clearly just push whatever agenda needs to be pushed. In fact, we don't need any of that right now. The science isn't sciencing. But hey, that's the New York Times. The soulless ghoul, Taylor Lorenz, was once, not too long ago, one of their most prominent reporters. Need we say more?
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
So isolating. So isolating. Yeah, except what she fails to tell everyone through her crocodile tears is that Taylor, her, was the one doing the bullying. She's the one who doxed the creator of the popular Libs of TikTok account on X and countless others, by the way, before that little episode of crying. Oh, then Taylor exalted a murderer.
You're like, oh my God, right? Like, here's this man who's revolutionary, who's famous, who's handsome, who's young, who's smart. He's a person that seems this morally good man, which is hard to find.
This woman has a screw loose because she right there is talking about none other than Luigi Mangione, by the way, who shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in the back. Mangione, who disgustingly had some of the top terrorism charges thrown out yesterday as leftists like Lorenz happily cheered. Lorenz wrote for the New York Times until just about 3 years ago. These are the kinds of people who write for the New York Times. So, hey, That's the New York Times. Just last week, the New York Times told millions of readers that Charlie Kirk was anti-Semitic. And then, quietly, they offered a correction. Only to a handful of readers who actually look for those corrections, right? They bury them lower on the first page, way at the bottom. No one can see it. They quietly retracted that comment, admitting that Charlie was reading a quote that wasn't his, which was then followed by his critique of the quote. No context in what the New York Times had said, right? It's disgusting. But hey, that's the New York Times. Like this moment when the New York Times put this starving Gazan child on its front page. Remember that? That starving Gazan? But then, on an account no one reads, they quietly admitted that the child actually had pre-existing health issues, had nothing to do with starvation. New York Times has two X accounts, by the way. One with tens of millions of followers for showing a fake picture of a Gaza child getting starved, and the other account with almost no followers for issuing a belated correction after getting called out for lying. Scream the lie, whisper the correction. See how it works? Millions of people see their lies and propaganda, see right through the New York Times. Few, a mere few more, see the corrections, if any. The damage is done. Can't put the genie back in the bottle, as they say. But hey, that's the New York Times. The Steele dossier, the so-called 51 intelligence experts. COVID came from bats. Russia collusion. Joe Biden's doing just fine. New York Times had a hand in all of those lies. But hey, that's the New York Times. And think about how much power the New York Times still holds over the Democrat Party they seem to represent. They're hell-bent on destroying the right, framing anyone on the right as anti-Semitic, racist, fascist. We've heard it all. And people listen. So I say kudos to the President of the United States. It's about time, about high time, the New York Times paid the piper and paid Trump. That's doing the country a favor and the world a massive service. We'll be back 2.5 minutes.